cars, black on black, black bras, whole lot of money in a black bag, black strap, you know what that's for.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for Founders Day. First of all, we want to say happy birthday to Huey Newton. He's a founder that we appreciate, and we actually wanted to do it on this day to exemplify that there are so many Black founders that we don't get to appreciate on a daily basis. And right now, you are one of them, or you are a supporter of them. There are going to be people tonight that join our live that are Black founders themselves, people who support Black-owned businesses, and people who are facilitating that in some way through education, through government, through philanthropy. Whatever your lane is, our goal tonight is to exemplify ownership, to exemplify empowerment of people. The entire purpose of Urban Legacy and our mission is to build Black wealth. We actually have a deadline, you guys. By 2053, median Black income is going to reach 0. Do you understand that? That means that of all income earners in the Black community, if you take the whole and divide it in half, that person that's right in the middle is going to have 0 wealth. That's a problem. That's an intergenerational problem. That causes future generations to not have control over their destiny. And our entire purpose as an organization is to completely eradicate that, completely undo that trend. Our 3 pillars are STEM education, entrepreneurship, and property ownership, wealth building activities. If you come out of the corporate sector, if you know any corporate strategy, you know about income generating activities. Well, we're looking for wealth generating activities. What can you own? What can you do to contribute to the economy? The beautiful thing is, so many of you that are joining us tonight are already doing something. Whatever your lane is, we're just asking you to exemplify it. And listen hard tonight to the speakers that we've selected. We've selected politicians who have control over budgets. We all think of lawmakers and their power to create laws as the most important thing that they do. But actually, they will tell you that whoever controls the budget and budget items is really how we're going to live our daily lives for the next several years. We also have a few Black entrepreneurs joining us tonight who have businesses that are business to business. This was important because we all need to start learning how to work together. And these businesses are already doing it in some way. They're already contributing to building Black wealth by supporting entrepreneurs, supporting STEM training, which is another income and wealth generating activity, and starting their own businesses and being examples in the community of people who are willing to go out on a limb, people who are willing to do something different than the norm, than go through the factory worker lifestyle that school was trying to prepare us for, or not prepare us for at all. We need alternatives. We all know this. This is why we're all living alternative lifestyles and supporting those things, because we need to make the alternative of owning Black business, of owning property as Black people, as having our own skills and providing our skills to market. We need to make that alternative the standard. So thank you all for joining us tonight. In our endeavor, this is going to be one event of many. So thank you for joining us tonight in our endeavor to make the alternative life, the rare and isolated life of entrepreneurship, a standard that we're all working together to create and build upon. Thank you so much. The next word that you're going to hear is from the chairperson of Urban Legacy. I'm Shane Oceanloye, the president of Urban Legacy. You're going to hear from our chairperson who runs our board, and he's going to discuss his mindset as to why he participated with us in founding Urban Legacy. Thank you guys so much.
Hey guys, my name is Brandon Smith, co-founder of Urban Legacy. I'd like to start off by thanking everyone for being here. A special thank you for our guest speakers. As a fellow entrepreneur, I understand the trials and tribulations behind having a business. I have 3. That doesn't come easy, and it comes with its own problems. You have a pandemic that's affected most businesses as to date. You've got government involvement now with PPP loans or PPE or whichever loan they decide to throw at you to keep you afloat, which is great. But what people don't realize is that, okay, this is what's happening now. What's happening before all of that? Where's the education behind opening a business or the support? You have to have good credit, yeah. You have to show that you have an established business model, yeah. All that stuff I learned on my own. No one taught me that. Coming from a minority community, I can tell you one thing. It wasn't in any of the school books that anybody gave me. It wasn't something my parents spoke to me about. It was non-existent. Urban Legacy's purpose is around entrepreneurship. Because these type of things need to be taught. These type of things are very important if you're a young man or woman who want to try and do something different. You don't want to work for someone else. You have a great idea, you're creative, you have your own business model that you're thinking about, but you don't know how to go about it. That's what we're here for. That's what we stand behind. And we want to see that come to fruition for everyone. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy this evening.
Again, thank you all for joining us tonight. So here is going to be the rundown of events because many of us, again, are business owners and we need to get straight down to the business. Tonight, we're going to have presentations from 2 politicians, 2 elected officials who I think are definitely in our corner and are excellent allies. And we're going to have a word from several entrepreneurs who, again, are in that business to business space. I have bad news for us, which I'll be very quick with. And then I have good news, which is going to be for the rest of the night. The bad news is our systems aren't designed for us to own anything. If you remember the intention of racism, the original intent was economic exploitation. That's a fact. And that's something that we haven't overcome in any market. It's what we're dealing with in the school system. It's what we deal with in housing. It's what we deal with in the job market. That's the bad news. Here's the good news. We've already started the work of reversing that, and that is what Black entrepreneurship is for. That's what it has to do. Small businesses account for almost half of all private industry employment. So if we have concerns, and our concern is unemployment in the Black community, what do we need that employs most of the workforce? We need more small businesses. You are already doing that. You're already supporting that. We need education. Our education system is not designed for us to be anything but obedient workers. Our education system, and it's barely good at doing that. Our education isn't designed to do anything but help us generate wealth for other people. But you're already doing the work and moving us forward in creating a pathway for our students to learn STEM, for our students to bring their skills to market. They're doing it on their own. They're doing it through social media. They're watching YouTube videos, etc. And they're thirsty for this knowledge. So tonight, again, we're going to have a series of speakers that are going to show us how to empower ourselves. Our elected officials are going to show us what their priorities are with the state and federal budget for the coming years, what those things have in store for Black entrepreneurs, because Black entrepreneurs will eventually become Black employers. Black entrepreneurs will eventually become STEM employers, STEM facilitators, market owners. And then we're going to have a word from entrepreneurs tonight. So next will be our elected officials. We're going to have State Senator Shelley, and we're going to have State Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins speaking. So thank you both for joining us, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Thank you, Shane. And I hope the majority leader is coming after me, because she's really the person for whom I'm extremely grateful that I get to chair the Education Committee, because she named me to that. But thank you for having me, and thank you for having a whole evening dedicated to building entrepreneurship in the Black community, particularly through STEM and building Black wealth. It's something that in our conference, which means the Senate Democratic majority, which the majority leader heads, we are committed to seeing the issues that we face through the lens of equity. And so as the chair of the Education Committee, my fight is to get money to our school districts so that every child, particularly every Black and brown child, has the opportunity that our more affluent districts have. I represent, with the majority leader, we share Yonkers, New Rochelle, and White Plains, but I also have Portchester, and I care about the city of New York and the Bronx and Brooklyn and Peekskill and Ossining and Buffalo and Syracuse and Rochester and cities throughout New York, particularly cities with a predominant minority population, where there is no question our school districts have not received fair funding. They have not had the kind of quality that we need for students to succeed and to thrive and to then become the kind of entrepreneurs that you are describing. So on the issue of STEM, which you talked about, which is very, very important, I'm very, very pleased that you partner with the STEM Alliance of Larchmont Mamaroneck, which is in my district, which I'm working with as well on a project to ensure that every child has free broadband while we have remote learning statewide at a price to be paid for by the companies that provide this service. Because we know that children are learning at home, they're forced to learn at home, and if they don't have broadband, basically the state has abdicated its responsibility to educate them. So I've been working with the STEM Alliance on that, as well as I'm so thrilled about their programs to encourage young, particularly Black children, to have experience in coding and other ways to achieve STEM excellence. And also the group Sister to Sister International in Yonkers, which has also taken the lead in ensuring that young girls, particularly Black young girls, get the opportunity to learn and excel in STEM. And at the statewide level, we have put resources into STEM, but frankly, in the economic climate we're in, we have to fight for the basics of school, including STEM, in every one of our urban school districts. And we have a fight on our hands because, very frankly, while we are appreciative that we have federal money, the governor's proposal is to use that federal money to supplant or stand in the place of the state's obligation to fund our schools. So under his proposal, no school is going to get extra money, even though they have additional expenses. And we are basically cutting the state's responsibility to fund public schools. So our fight is with him, disagreeing with him about this approach. We are very, very pleased to have additional federal money, but for our schools to come back after this year, and for particularly our Black and brown children to continue to do better than they have done, and to have excellence and equality of education as you described, we need to use that federal money for the things that are necessary for COVID, and the state to provide the basics, including high quality STEM education in every one of our school districts, and particularly in districts where they have not had access to high quality STEM education. So that is a very dominant theme of the place we are in the budget right now. The budget is due at the end of March, a balanced budget. We're going to be putting forth, and I'm sure the leader will talk about that, our own priorities in our budget, which reflect our commitment to racial justice and equity, and particularly for our communities of color to have the kind of quality education that really so many of our more affluent, predominantly white communities have had for far too long. We have an unjust system of education. It is the civil rights issue of our day, and it is our job to try to fix it. And so I've been very much sort of in the brawl to try to fix that, along with my colleagues, with the leadership of Andrea. Some of the other things I want to talk about briefly is the state has some projects and proposals to facilitate STEM, and particularly they have, for example, a STEM scholarship for students who do extremely well to get a scholarship through the Higher Education Services Corp for basically for going to both a public or a private college. But we have not had an across-the-board examination of how to excel in science, technology, engineering, and math, and we need to do that. Now, for once, we have true leadership in the state education department in our new commissioner, Betty Rosa, who is a woman who comes out of being a superintendent in the Bronx of a District 75 school, a school for students with special needs, who really feels the passion of equity, and particularly equity for our Black and brown children. And she is a partner in this effort, but it is time that we invest in STEM in all of our schools and create a much greater sense of equity and opportunity for these students. We haven't had that. The other thing I wanted to mention on Black entrepreneurship is slowly resources have been growing for small business, particularly Black-owned business, to learn the many, many things you have to learn to be successful in business. We have a state-run program in the Economic Development Agency that is supposed to help small businesses. Unfortunately, the Hudson Valley one is in Rockland, which is something that many of us have said that's not enough. You have to have one in Westchester. That's where we want to facilitate growth. And we're going to continue to fight for that. But these myriad things, including the County of Westchester, which support Black entrepreneurship, are not organized in a way that facilitates growth. So a kid that graduates from Westchester Community College and has a fantastic idea, a Black person of a new business that they want to start, has a very hard path forward. And our job through higher education and through K through 12 education is to make that a smoother and easier path. So I'm very committed to working with my colleagues, focused on the education, not K through 12. We want to start at age 3 through college, a continuum of excellence and improvement and a focus on equity. And until we have a funding stream that is fair and that is predictable, our schools cannot invest in Black children in the way that we demand and need, and the time has come. The last thing I want to say on this subject is there's tremendous interest at this moment in ensuring that the curriculum in our schools reflects the great breadth of experience that the African American experience has represented in America. Too many of our students graduate high school not knowing anything about the African American experience here other than about Dr. King, and that's not acceptable. The commissioner is beginning to look at that. We are beginning to look at it, and I think in the field of education, the time is right to reflect and to build a broader approach to talking about American history and American culture and the contributions of African Americans beyond the traditional way it has been taught, which is completely unacceptable. And I think there's widespread agreement about that. So I'm very, very pleased to be here. I appreciate, Shane, the opportunity to be here. I'm very, very fortunate to have my friend, the majority leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, have selected me to be a fighter for educational equity. It's in my soul and in my heart, and that's how I approach this. We have an obligation to do better by children of color in our school districts and our school system. And New York has some real big ground to make up. And that's what we're fighting. Even in this tough time, we're fighting to do that. So I think I'll stop, and either you will tell me what's next.
Well, thank you so much for that, Shelley. And first and foremost, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us tonight, because I know that you guys are in budget talks right now. And thank you for the work that you're doing on the state level. I want to frame this for everyone and why we're starting off with speaking about education, because education is foundational. We spend the first 2 decades of our life in some form of school system, and that basically determines the direction of most people's lives. So I'm glad that you also talked about how entrepreneurship and the broader Black experience and Black history is largely excluded from the school district. So thank you for bringing that up particularly. I want to ask you budget questions tonight. What do you see? I know that we're in the midst of the post-COVID climate. What do you see as our biggest hurdle and the biggest thing that we need to advocate for more money to get into entrepreneurs' hands?
Well, I might have missed you there, but we have two big battles on the budget side from my perspective as chair of education. One, thank goodness of our federal representatives who are fighting for us. They have gotten money for schools, and they have gotten money for the things that we need, like social emotional health that we're going to need, compensatory learning for kids to make up what they lost being at home, a whole range of things that kids are going to need because they fell behind. We got that money, and then the governor took that money and used it to offset the state's responsibility to fund public schools or to give an increase. And if we adopted the governor's budget this year, we'd have 3 years of flat funding for Mount Vernon and Yonkers and Peekskill and Ossining, Portchester, the city of New York. It's not acceptable. So we are in a fight with him to find a way to use that federal money, which is going to be a lot of money for COVID, and invest particularly in our school districts that are predominantly minority, where we need additional investment, and that has been our commitment. Secondly, I believe we need a dedicated source of revenue for schools, and I have a bill for that. At the highest income earners, an additional 2% tax just for schools, 85% for K through 12, 15% for SUNY and CUNY, because without predictability, every year we get to this point of crisis at the end of March, and then somehow we have to do the best we can. That's not a way to do what you're talking about. 20 years of an educational experience should be built on the blocks of predictability and what we know works. We have to do better on that. So my fight is with the governor's office on behalf of our conference to get money and to target it at districts in greatest need and districts that have been left behind.
I hope the leader doesn't kill me for this, but I want to ask you one quick question because of your role as chair of the education committee. Something that is beyond the budget, which I think is just as important that we brought up, is the curriculum. And that's a curriculum that we fear because we've experienced it failing us in our lives. How do we get to the point where the full Black experience is a part of the curriculum? How do we get to the point where technical training is a part of the standardized curriculum just as much as English and math? How do we make it another understood science?
Well, I think we have a great opportunity with Commissioner Rosa, and I really would encourage people to embrace that. The State Education Department is not a governor's agency. It's independent. We pick the regents. We have a fantastic new chancellor, African-American, leader of the MBK movement, who understands that this is going to take time, but we have to pivot to really improving the discussion of an African-American experience in every child's exposure to the American experience. We have left it out. And so I'm talking to Black educators. I'm talking to the State Education Department. It's difficult, very frankly. The legislature does not determine curriculum, but we can push this issue ahead and make sure that it's part of the conversation. And this year in the Black Lives Matter conversation, it really became clear that white and Black and brown students felt they had not learned really anything of meaning, and they left school without it. And so we have some challenges. Other states have had some interesting models that I'm looking at, but I think, it isn't an easy fix. And as I said, we don't tell the school districts what to teach, but we can work with our colleagues and try to make sure that this conversation is in the conversation of what schools must teach, and that we push it from the ground up and also from the top down.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I don't want to take any more time away from you. And thank you for, if we have additional questions, could we send them to you and ask your office to respond to them?
Yes, I'll put here my my email, my Senate email. Please feel free. I look forward to following up with anybody and to fighting on these issues of equity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we're going to have a discussion with Andrea Stewart-Cousins, our New York State Senate Majority Leader. We focused on education opening up because the talent of the future is going to determine the economy of the future. These are going to be the kids that you're hiring one day, and we've all come out of the same school system that's failed us on so many levels. We are still learning new things about our own experience, that our environment was dependent on our schools teaching us. But next, we're going to have a conversation that's directly about your pocketbook, because we want to talk about how the COVID crisis, how the state budget, how federal funding affects small businesses just like yours or the ones that you support.
Hi, Shane. Hello?
Leader.
Here we are. I thought I was talking to myself. How are you?
I'm very well, and thank you so much for coming here tonight, because we know that you guys are in the midst of a budget battle up at the state. So thank you.
It's all right. You know, I'm very happy to be with you. I frankly didn't know anything about Urban Legacy Foundation, and the fact that you are here in my backyard, I guess. Right? Were you in New Row?
Yes, right here in New Rochelle.
Okay. That makes me happy. Good. So I'm very pleased about that, because for your focus on entrepreneurship and really building wealth, Black wealth, is just incredibly important to you, to me, and to all of us, and obviously to the American economy. Because the reality is that, you know, we're pretty good at consuming. We know we put a
Very
whole
good.
So it's about time we kind of figured out how to really build that wealth. And I also want to just give a shout out to Kenneth Plummer, because I know that he's certainly a successful entrepreneur in many ways. And, you know, I think a lot of times you have to, and I always say, you know, if you see me, you can be me. And, you know, I grew up in New York City, and you know, I didn't see that many Black entrepreneurs. You know, I grew up at a time where, you know, you just didn't see us. You know, I grew up in the civil rights era, and you know, when I was even listening to what Senator Mayer was saying about, and what you were talking about in terms of education and you know, putting technology in school and making sure we have, you know, different opportunities. When I was going to school, you know, the guidance counselor looked at me and said, you know, you're not college material. Told this to my parents.
Wow.
You know,
I just want to exemplify that for a moment. So right now, you're the New York State Senate Majority Leader.
The first woman in the history to ever lead a conference in the history of New York.
Right.
And he told my parents to do not waste any money on her. She will not go anywhere. But I want, you know, I give this history because people need to understand from whence we came.
Right.
Because that wasn't that long ago.
Right.
And when you walked in the door, if you were Black, you were going to be in, like they say, commercial or some kind of, you know, home economics. My brother, brilliant man, shop. You know, spent a whole day in shop. And in the same time, there were opportunities for our white colleagues to go to free college. Nobody ever talks to us about free college. I didn't know anything like that existed.
Right.
And I will even go back further in terms of building wealth. And we cannot really underscore ownership and home ownership as being a vehicle as well as entrepreneurship. Right. Because when my dad, who was a World War II veteran, came out, he, you know, had a Purple Heart, Bronze Star, Valor, in, hurt in the war, fighting, so on and so forth. When he came out, the GI Bill did not apply to Black soldiers.
Right.
So when white soldiers were given like mortgage-free homes, interest-free, Black soldiers were told you could live in the projects.
Right.
And that's where we grew up. So when you see the big gap between Black wealth and white wealth, a lot of it is right there in that home ownership. Because what happens, you get handed a home, and then over the years it appreciates, and all of a sudden you've got money to send your kids to school, you mortgage it, and so on and so forth. So you've got an asset to hand to your children. And so I cannot, I always want to tell people a little about the history so that they understand, that the fight continues, and that despite that, we have been very resilient, and we have persevered. And yes, look how far we've come, but it's not far enough. And it's not that far back that we were in a very different place. And so the vigilance that an Urban Legacy Foundation does, and the ability to, bring folks like me and other elected officials here to talk with you and to get your ideas and to help, that I can, know that I've got like a structure that will be able to capture for us the needs in our community as in terms of entrepreneurship cannot be overstated. Your value cannot be overstated.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And secondly, obviously, Senator Mayer, she's just incredible. She is somebody who I was very happy to not only, we share Westchester together, but, I get a chance to be able to create committees and chair people in these places. And I take these things very seriously. We couldn't have a better advocate for all of our children than Shelley Mayer. What she brings to the table in terms of grit and intelligence and just fighting for the right things, is something that I am frankly very grateful for. And that being said, I've also in 2017, when I was still in the minority, we put together a task force about MWBEs. And now in the majority, that task force is full, going full speed ahead. Senator James Sanders chairs that task force along with Assemblywoman Rodney's Rashad. And, they have been, finding ways to bring in, we have big agencies to bring big agencies to the table to talk about what we need to do to promote MWBE. We had a disparity study, and we extended it to 2024 so that we would continue to set goals. New York State has like a 30% goal for MWBE involvement. And so we continued the disparity study and making sure that New York acknowledged the fact that there's the disparity. So we continue pushing the goals. This year, I created a committee for procurement and contracts, and a brand new senator, Senator Elijah Reichlin Melnick. I put him in charge of that. He was a staffer before. He worked for Congressman Engel. He worked for the Senate. He's been an elected official, and I created that committee because I want to know what's happening in terms of procurements, in terms of contract. Are we meeting our goals, especially as it relates to MWBEs? And now I have a committee that not only could demand accountability, but get the information that we need. So
I want to ask you about that actually,
sure.
Because I know that you're a proponent of MWBEs and building wealth in communities that have suffered from disparities in the past. And I've looked at the statistics. This is very pertinent to a lot of the entrepreneurs and supporters on this line tonight, because a government contract could make or break an entire business for its life cycle. And sometimes as a Black entrepreneur, and I'm speaking for myself and others that I've discussed this with, we find that when our issues are conflated or commingled with other groups, we will be ignored. For example, with MWBEs, we do have the 30% goal, and I've seen that. And the question that I wanted to ask you tonight is that, we see that with MWBEs with everyone grouped together, but if you break out how those contracts go out, most of the contracts, of course, are still going directly to businesses owned by white males, but the bulk of the MWBE contracts actually are just going to white females. So sometimes it's going to the same households. Meanwhile, Black-owned businesses, we haven't capped more than 2.5% for any contracting category, because there's the development. Not everyone's in construction. I don't need to explain this to you. To frame this for everyone listening, there's development, there are other services, and we don't see any more than 1 or 2% of those, and we feel like we've been highlighted to then be discarded. And I know you as a Black woman wouldn't want us to feel that way as a people.
I don't want you to feel that way. Absolutely not. Like I said, look, we are in a position now that has never happened before in New York State. And, I've been in the majority since 2019. I've been so that's 2 years. And Carl Hastie, who's the speaker in the assembly, also is, an African-American male. So New York State has never, ever had leadership like this.
Representation matters.
Right, exactly. It actually understands and has a focus and a concern and a passion for making sure that those barriers to Black businesses and Black success are absolutely removed in our state. So but I said, it has never happened before. So, I just say, we're here now. I have a bunch of things in place. Of course, we have COVID, and COVID is a problem because we know that so much of the Black wealth, the Black entrepreneurs that were, doing got hit really, really hard. And even when the federal money came in, it wasn't.
It came and went.
And it didn't really come to us.
Right.
In many ways. In the state, we put $100 million. We put a New York, forward loan situation in place so that people could try and get some assistance so that they wouldn't lose their businesses. But, I think we're all afraid of the terrible impact and the toll that it has taken on Black businesses. So what, we will have, obviously, and I hate to say this, I think is important. We need to have a hearing. We need to know where we are. We need to have folks show up. And then we have to make sure that our MWBE programs are funded and that they're not losing any money. In terms of the assistance to MWBs, that we continue to have that and to broaden it. And also, we have to make sure that our MWBEs do their homework and are prepared. I have a great daughter-in-law. She's like my daughter, and it's Keisha Plummer Cousins. Keisha is an entrepreneur, and she spends a lot of time trying to help, Black businesses. And a lot of times, she says, sometimes we're not ready. Our paperwork's not together. We didn't do some of the sorts of things that we need to do in order to be ready when that door opens and that time comes. So while we are rebuilding, I can only say that the state is in a position, again, when other people were in the majority, especially, I have to say, the Republican colleagues, MWBE was not an issue, was not a discussion. There was no conversation.
Right.
So this is very different, but
let us know what to do, because something that I appreciated, I'm also a member of Indivisible New Rochelle, And something that I've always appreciated when you come to speak and when Shelley comes to speak is that you guys are excellent at setting expectations and also really great at giving us marching orders. And again, we have a bunch of entrepreneurs and other organization leaders here tonight. So tell us exactly what we need to do to get more state contracts. I'm focusing more on the contract and even more than the COVID relief loans, because a loan you have to pay back unless you meet the parameters where you won't have to, but a contract, again, can make someone's entire life. So what would our marching orders be to support your office in the endeavor of increasing, sadly, that 1% to 2% of contracts that we do get? That's an improvement of 0.5%.
It's awful. I mean, you know, like I said, it has not been an issue in the state. You know, people wouldn't even give it lip service. So, you know, here we are. And we're in a new day. I said, unfortunately, we spent the last year, unfortunately, in a pandemic that hit us incredibly hard. But we are all in a rebuilding mode, and we are able to be helpful. So please, what I would like to do is at least one-on-one talk to you and get you in touch with, you know, the right people, because they said, I need information from my community. I said, my daughter-in-law is fabulous. She can help people, you know, get certified, or if they need to get focused or whatever. But the thing is, I need people who, you know, are ready. And if there's some inequities happening that you see that, wait a minute, I should have had this, I didn't have, you know, I'm there. So, you know, please don't let this opportunity pass by. Now, you know, I think what Senator Mayer talked about, STEM and STEAM and all that, she shouted out sister to sister. AT&T has been very helpful in terms of getting, you know, STEM and STEAM programs going. And certainly sister to sister has been fabulous in terms of focusing on young girls of color, and I've been happy to support that program through funding when we had, and we'll continue to do that. But I also want people to look ahead to, you know, we're talking about legalization of marijuana and stuff. So, I mean, I want people to be thinking, because one of the things that I wouldn't do and we wouldn't do is just certify what the governor wanted, which did not bring resources and opportunities to the communities that have been most negatively impacted by the way marijuana laws have been enforced. So the reality is we have a whole new industry that's getting ready to come. And so we need to make sure that, again, resources come to our communities as well as opportunities come to our community. So that is another thing that I am focused on during this budget time. So be in touch. And said, if you want to get, you know, if you want to be that focal point where people could give you information so that we could work together, I'd be happy to. My staff is on, Annie Willis. And, you know, we will be able to, I think, forge a path ahead.
Okay.
And please, like I said, if I had to tell any of your entrepreneur listeners, please just whatever business you have, just have your records tight, because you can't do business with the state or with the, you know, any government level if your stuff isn't together. So
I definitely want to follow up with you, because just like our chairman said earlier on, all of us as entrepreneurs, especially Black entrepreneurs, a lot of the things that we're learning are from scratch. I started my entrepreneurship journey post-college, you know, because none of it is covered in the place where we would usually depend on information. So just like you brought up Sister to Sister, I want to thank Sister to Sister International and my friends who work there. I want to thank Meg Koifer from the STEM Alliance of Larchmont Mamaroneck, because they see innovation and they foster and facilitate innovation even as they are a startup as well. Can I ask you one more question, because it has to do with innovation?
Sure.
Okay. So speaking of, you know, we went through the COVID pandemic, but an anomaly that we saw was that a lot of businesses that depended on brick and mortar went out of business, whereas a lot of businesses that were online and prepared for that thrived. And then something you just brought up was having our paperwork in order. And again, we're learning all of these things from scratch. So if there's a program out there or a series of programs or resources out there where we can get our paperwork in order, where our business owners could be trained in technology in some way, is there a state program like that? Is there space in the budget for anything like that? What could we do to facilitate that so we could thrive for the future industries?
You know, I said there are, I mean, basically the state doesn't necessarily itself run the programs, but we fund a lot of organizations that do run the programs. You know, so one of them that I think of just offhand is WEDC, the Women's Economic Development, Women's Enterprise Development Council. And they have ongoing, I said, again, this is pre-COVID, but I'm sure they must be online, but there are a lot of places like that that will help, you know, for nothing. You know, we fund places and then places give that kind of information. So again, this is something that I can make available, but I know, for example, WEDC does it. I said my daughter-in-law does it. There are resources out there. I'm almost thinking that community colleges, on some level, Westchester Community College offers a kind of a startup sort of thing. But yes, you know, seek and you will find. And again, my email is scousins@nysenate.gov, scousins@nysenate.gov. And as I said, we can, you know, try and compile some of the available things and make sure it's on my website. But the information is there, and you know, we could at least get you some assistance.
Could I pull you later on for a one-on-one interview where we could get into some of these things?
I'd be happy to do that.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much.
It's really nice to be part of this, and thank you again for what you're doing and celebrating Black History Month as we encourage, you know, everybody to remember what our ancestors have gone through with far less, and know that, you know, we are just to be tributes to their legacy, and we can do it through entrepreneurship and community service, being good to each other.
We spend so much time celebrating Black history, we forget that we're supposed to be making it as well.
That's right.
So thank you so much for joining us tonight, you know, and helping us make it.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Next, we're going to have a word from several entrepreneurs that, again, are in the business of helping other entrepreneurs, or in the business of creating intelligent contributors to the economy through STEM education, through incubators. This is important for us to know because we need to start exchanging more resources as entrepreneurs. We need to start circulating our capital more between our businesses so we could keep capital and build capital up in our communities. So next we're going to have Aaron Williams, and he has founded a few organizations. I'm actually wearing his hoodie right now, his Black Lives Matter hoodie from his Everything brand. And I wanted to make it a point to do that tonight because he's doing incredible work and we need to support people like him. Aaron, hello.
What's going on, Shay? Thank you, man. Appreciate you. You look good in that hoodie too, man.
Thank you. You designed it well. I wanted you to talk tonight about some of the work that you're doing in the community. I wanted you to talk tonight about your walk as a founder and how we could use more resources as entrepreneurs and where we could really build each other up. I think you have the best sense of that out of the speakers tonight.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank Shelley Mayer and Andrea Stewart-Cousins coming on. That was big for you guys, for everybody, to have people that's for us in our community that's coming out to speak for us and help us out. So thank them. First off, I guess I'll start with Everything brand since you went that way first. Pretty much started this pandemic I had the idea for years. The pandemic kind of really it brought it on for me. It was like, I don't do it now, I'll never do it. So I kind of, I kind of went with that and made sure I did it. Fail or no fail, I was going to do it. I needed to figure that out right away. So yes, I started that. And also a better way we've been doing that with Officer Rob Johnson, who most of the Shelley knows tragically lost his mother this past week. So my condolences to Ms. Karen Johnson, the Johnson family, especially to my brother Rob. We started our Better Way Foundation. Pretty much, like I said, he's an officer. I'm a director of the Boys and Girls Club in New Rochelle. I actually took him to New Zealand with me, and my friend in New Zealand, actually named Green, who started There's a Better Way Foundation in New Zealand. That's how we got kind of started our Better Way in New York. We went out there and kind of Rob. I've been talking to Glenn for years. Rob kind of brought us to the table, and we figured pretty much we said we got to get this done. We came back home, we did that, and we got it done. So we started our Better Way New York Foundation, which pretty much would just cater to our kids here. So everything we want to do, we want to pretty much plan out that plan B for our kids. A lot of people have the sports as where they want to go as their dream, but a lot of people don't have that plan B as being ready for when that dream doesn't become reality and reality sets in, and they don't know where to go. Like Shelley Mary said, a lot of people come from high school and are lost a little bit. Trying to find their way. Even at she's at Westchester Community College. A lot of people still lost at the time. So we're trying to set that foundation. I think she started 3rd grade by age 3, which was amazing to say, because a lot of people you need it as early as possible, especially with STEM. A lot of people don't see the benefits in STEM early enough. I think a lot of people are exposed to STEM, especially our young Black people, are not exposed to STEM early enough where they know where STEM factors in. Like, everybody wants to be on the forefront, wants to be, in the front of the camera. The things with STEM, it can put you behind the camera. And I'm going to say that, shout out to Derek, who's behind a lot of this what we're doing today as well. STEM can give you a big background in different aspects of whatever they want to be in. So that's a big part. And we're trying to, bring that foundation out for a lot of kids and give them that exposure that they need for STEM.
Right.
So yeah, we also doing a program
of that for a while. You've been a strong proponent of that for a while, and you have a really good connection with kids, and you're really great at teaching kids how to be leaders. And that's something that we definitely need for the future. One of the questions that I wanted to ask you was, where do you feel, because just like the leader's cousin said earlier, we're really good at being consumers. Where do you feel the gap is where our kids could be leveraging STEM more? Do they need more resources, more hardware? I feel like kids have access to devices, but then I hear not. I know that gaming was discouraged when I was a kid. And now it's a $2 billion, actually multi-billion-dollar industry. Where do you feel like the gap is? Is the gap foresight? Is the gap access, equipment? What do you feel like it is?
I guess I want to say it's the access, the funding for it, because a lot of those things cost when you have to go somewhere like that. So more so of trying to find the funding to like I said, I've been directed of Boys Club, so I'm just going to say everything Boys and Girls Club right now. And we talked about that. So after Kenneth Plummer too, which we're working on getting this new Boys and Girls Club, to having this even like a gaming room, because like I said, when we were younger, it was to play games. It was something to do. Now it's almost a way of life. These kids can make a lot of kids right now. The kids make a lot of money. Yes, exactly. So these kids can make a lot of money actually just playing video games. And then on the other end of that, is start learning about them. Start learning about how to produce the video games and how to do different things with the video games. So it's like I said, I think it's a big industry for a lot of gamers just to have that. And that's one of the things we're actually looking at when we get this new Boys and Girls Club, is actually converting just the old school, now we say computer room, to a gaming room. Because like I said, a computer room is just kind of like, it's a computer room. Now we're trying to make it into something more where these kids, like I said, it's more so the STEAM. I'm going to say STEAM as well, because there's a lot of arts involved, and I get to that in a second. There's more so of getting them involved in the gaming aspect and learning how to make income off of it, not just wasting time playing video games.
Right. We want to make gaming a revenue generating activity. And that's interesting because I saw some incredible things with Minecraft, and a lot of people, even me, millennials, we were like, why are all the new kids, why are all the younger kids playing Minecraft so much? Come to find out, they're doing incredible things with JavaScript, which is one of the most, we're using Java right now. It's one of the most fundamental coding languages to date. Things are evolving, but I want to ask you, how could the school system, how could the government, how could they get more involved? And let me ask you a different question as well and add to it. How could corporations and other small businesses get involved to build their presence so that they're contributing to the future of the economy that we all want to be robust? How could they get more involved in teaching your kids in addition to the budget? We already know the budget, but what are other ways that they could get involved?
I think one is schooling as well, to start getting some of the kids we talked to as well. Even said, a lot of them in high school said, I didn't really learn anything, or they feel that way. and that's big to say that. Like you go through elementary, you go through middle school, you go through high school, and some of them feel like, what did they really learn that kind of was for them, you can say. So I think a lot of it is getting majors or minors, you could kind of say, earlier, because a lot of people are not, a lot of people are not for school. A lot of people are not built for school, but they're very smart. You have I've seen a lot in our age. You have a lot of auto mechanics that right from high school, they went to work in auto mechanics, and right away some of them had their own businesses quick, because that was an entrepreneur job. That was one of those stronger entrepreneur jobs right away that they can get. Now, just the world, the industry, everywhere else, you can build some of those businesses faster in different lanes. But I think just having that, I know we have BOCES where a lot of kids go there for trade stuff, and I think we need to start that earlier, where we need to develop with our kids. What do you want to be? What do you want to do? And we need to kind of implement that. Even with teachers, I think we need to implement more of what the kids actually want to do, instead of trying to force them to learn what they don't want to learn. And they're learning it, but it's like, I need to learn it to pass. I need to learn it to get through, and it's forgotten. Instead of something, because a lot of people go to college and still don't know what they want to be.
Right.
When they come out.
It's interesting because I used to actually play a game, Final Fantasy VII, and in learning the magic of that game, I learned the nuance of language, because if you get the language correctly, you get the effect that you want. And it was inadvertently teaching me things like punctuation and order of operation and things like that. So I'm going to ask another question. Assuming that the school system nationally, the different school systems that we have, assuming that they continue on their path of not preparing children for ownership or entrepreneurship or STEM in any meaningful way, how could we do that more as a community? Where have you seen it done well more as a community, and where are our gaps?
I think we need to lay out. I think we need to lay out great programs and spell it out. And a lot of it, to be honest, we need to get to the parents. Because the parents pretty much, has the eye on the kids. More likely, after school is over, you kind of can't control what the kids are doing when they're not, in school or with us and after school. When they're on their own, they say that idle time is the devil time and this and that. And that's when they get lost, because they're on their own time, which they have their own fun and kind of doing the things they want to do outside of school as a relief and whatever you want to call it. But just to lay out those programs to let them know, these programs are here for you, and make the programs fun and interesting, that these kids want to be involved in it. Like a lot of times you got to force the kids to do it. Say, hey, we got this program, and they're like, it's like, so now we got to wait
the same way.
we always got to wait that carrot now and say, all right, we got to put this
Right.
carrot and say this, this incentive, this and that, just for them to be a part of it. So we just need to lay these programs out, to let these kids know the benefits of them and kind of give them the benefit right away though as well. We can't, like, sometimes it's the super long-term goal where as a kid, you don't see it. As a kid, you want to have fun quick and that's it. You know what I mean? There's a few that's like, all right, I'm all about business. But you have, like I say, the athletes that everything's about either basketball, football, or baseball, whatever sport they play in soccer. That's all it's about at that time. And that's why I always say we always got to prepare them for that plan B as well. And like I said, we have to we got to build these programs stronger, and get a lot of local faces out as well to let them know these people are right in our backyard that are, I want to say, millionaires. That, like, I didn't know Andrea Stewart-Cousins told, if somebody always need that motivation as well. Somebody told her, oh, don't waste your time. She's not going to be nothing. I think everybody successful had that super negative motivation where you kind of need that as well. So sometimes you need to, not say put the kids down, but you need to kind of say that. I've seen Damian Lillard, basketball stuff. Damian Lillard, Shaq said that to, not Damian Lillard, said that to, on Utah right now. I can't think his name right now. I lost it. Read that quick. Donovan Mitchell. Shaq kind of told him he wasn't this person. He wasn't ready. Wasn't this, wasn't that. On national TV, told him that. Donovan Mitchell right now is probably on top of the league right now. Their team is in first place. He kind of needed that enthusiasm to strengthen him up, to make him,
teach him grit.
I want to prove him wrong.
Right.
So sometimes these kids need that, but a lot of times it's the programs we build for them. We need to build them stronger and let them know what the end result is and how successful they can become. We need to give them all the tools too, like not just the good stuff, give them the bad stuff and let them know what they're going to go through. Because a lot of times you give them good stuff and they see that bad happen and they're like, oh no, I can't do this.
When Kenneth Plummer is going to be our next speaker up. So the last question I want to ask you, because you guys have had interactions through the Boys Club Network, and you said something very profound when we were working on a government contracting ordeal a few years back. You said something very profound when I interviewed you. You said you want to give kids the opportunity to manage the space that they're in. So my last question would be, you talked about, there's some kids that are out there that do have that motivation, do have that drive. W.E.B. Du Bois used to call them the talented 10th. How do we get the talented 10th? How do we get that subset more empowered? Like, what are your next moves as far as lining them up for the future, lining them up to be owners and managers?
Well, right now, I'll just say this real quick. Right now, we started with Better Way. We have a program that we're probably about eight weeks in. I want to say that we've been doing a lot of Zoom calls, just with a lot of kids, and especially with the partnership kind of with the Neuro basketball team as well. And we've been getting them here for entrepreneurship. We've actually not partnered up, but we're linking up right now. We gave them 4 big companies that they're working on right now, and do some research on and give us feedback on it. And it's really a lot for them to do research, but to bring it back to how they're going to relate that to their own self for the future and their own business for the future. Going forward to the stuff with ownership of the club is more so we're older now. We're not in the club being a kid every day. So we want to get their ideas, and we want to see what's going to make this club better and beneficial for them. How can we do that? Like I said, that's when we talked about having a whole gaming center. These kids play video games every day. So I always say, if something you're doing something, you want to make sure you're making money doing it, especially if you can. So if these kids are playing games every day, I told one of the kids, like, yo, I play 2K all day. So I said, you need to find a way to play 2K all day to make money, not betting wise, but try to figure out, how you can do that somehow to make money. I didn't look into it yet myself, but I'm sure there are plenty of ways to get into 2K tournaments or whatever it is to start, making money into gaming, because a lot of these kids love games, a lot of them. And then, like I said, she said 3 years old, like the Minecraft. I loved it because it was so old school, but it was literally just almost like watching them playing like Call of Duty or something, with just old little characters, which is,
and they're built, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for coming out tonight. I want to pick your brain in another interview so that we could talk more about the work that you're doing with kids, and especially A Better Way, NY, which is your nonprofit startup to really be a mentor and guide to the future of the economy. I want to thank everybody tonight for even, hearing what we have to say about building up the future generation, because it's important for the future of the consumers. We need to support our businesses as well. Just as much as we need more Black entrepreneurs, we need more empowered youth. We need a comfortable country where I don't have to worry like the 1980s about being robbed on 42nd Street. We need people to eat. So I want to thank you for your work with the future. I want to thank you for being a founder and providing that guidance to the future of our existence.
I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
That hoodie looks great, by the way, too.
That hoodie looks great. Where did I get it from? Somebody should
appreciate it. Like I said, that's what I said. That's support, man. We just got to support each other.
Absolutely.
And keep it going there. Like I always say, one last thing. I always say, like, a lot of people support and pay heavy prices for people they don't know.
That they don't
so it's like, know. Why not you support somebody you do know? Like, imagine, just say for me, for instance, you keep supporting me right now and I become a millionaire. I'm going to be like, I know, Shane, I'm a millionaire. I got to donate somebody. I got to do things back to people that supported me.
Right.
The first people I'm going to look to is the people that supported me and the people I know. So the more people I know that's important, that's doing good, at the end of the day, it'll help me, but I want to see my people doing good. So
that's how we circulate that capital too.
Exactly.
Thank you for coming out tonight, man. Next, we're going to have Kenneth Plummer speaking, and Sharnetta Davis, who is one of his partners. They help other entrepreneurs in their endeavors. So I just definitely wanted to highlight their work and ask him more about it. Ken, how are you doing tonight?
Shane, how you doing? How's everything? Thank you so much for having me.
You do some great work in the development space. You do some great work in the philanthropy space. So I wanted to ask you, about that tonight. So, what do you think?
Absolutely. Thank you to Shane and to Urban Legacy team and to our distinguished panelists. Our Aaron, the problem, still a problem, Williams. And so my name is Kenny Plummer, the president and owner of a boutique construction consulting development firm founded in 2004, which we've morphed into a few things throughout the years. But I think the one thing, we've been consistent with is our desire to help people of color specifically with economic empowerment. We've always believed that, doing well and doing good is not mutually exclusive. You can make some money and still do good, right? But I think, we also have to quantify, right? We do, the collective we, what is doing well, what is doing good? Is making $1 million, as Aaron indicated, and hoarding it for yourself, or is doing well, creating an urban legacy, right? Of generational wealth. And I love that name, legacy, right? Leaving something or something left from the past, right? And something Aaron just said that really struck me, help me become a millionaire, right? Why should you become a martyr? There's no reason that you can't do good things and make some money, right? But we want to make sure that we uplift the right kind of folk, all Black folk and kinfolk, right? So we want to make sure that we have folk who have the right mentality to uplift our community, right? And I think that's very important. Some of the things I wanted to just talk about is maybe probably use, the Lincoln Avenue corridor project, the Renaissance, which I see that your team behind the scenes, L2 Web Media, was instrumental part on a lot of levels. We'll discuss that briefly. in making sure not just the groundbreaking, but even prior to that, they're the ones that did the website, helped write a lot of the language in terms of presentation language. Shout out to Deborah and Derek for L2Web Media Group, great team. We'll be working with them in the future as well. And so, I think, one of the things that we do, and historically I've primarily been a consultant on most development deals, a lot of things in Mount Vernon, some things in New Rochelle, 64 Lincoln Avenue, which is the Lincoln Towers, which house 89 units of senior housing. And then the first project I was able to co-develop as an actual developer was the Lincoln project, which was just obviously at a closing in October of 2020. And I think it's a good case study and really kind of brings a lot of the things that we're talking about. We're talking about having the right-minded and like-minded elected officials, entrepreneurs, and developers. And I think development is probably one of the few ways that municipalities can create wealth, right? I mean, it's literally, billions of dollars that are going to flow through Westchester County from development, right? And in terms of creating generational wealth, you got to have some sort of say-so in the people that live in your area, right? And so what we were able to do with kind of explaining, what we were able to do, the Lincoln Towers HDFC, which is affiliated with the St. Catherine AME Zion Church. So the AME Zion Church, typically whoever's the pastor is the head of the HDFC, and whoever are the trustees or the board members for the HDFC. And as you know, Reverend Rouse, who was the immediate past pastor, retired a few years ago. And, they have, the AME Zion Church is under a bishop, and the bishop says, Rouse, I have a new pastor coming in, I need to stay with the HDFC. It's too much for him to kind of learn a new church and run an HDFC. And so in his infinite wisdom, or his wisdom, he was able to see that was the best course of action. And so, our objective was to, the HDFC, and Reverend Rouse has been a tremendous financial steward, is how can we continue to provide quality, affordable housing, but also looking at the area, how can we also make sure that we have a stake in the continued growth, the economic growth, and the change, because change is inevitable, right? The one guaranteed thing in life is change, right? And the thing is not necessarily to always fight change. I'm not saying fighting change is not a bad thing, but also you want to be involved in that change and have a say-so on how that change impacts you directly. And so it was our objective to not just build some quality, affordable housing. We also knew there was an amazing facility right next door to that property. And I'm talking about the parking lot for the 64 Lincoln Avenue, basically abuts the existing Boys and Girls Club. And we came with the idea to approach the club in the city about doing that as a joint project. Now, a lot of times, folks in the community wait until a project's done or approved before they say, well, let me try and get a job. Not recognizing there's a lot of money flowing even before you have an approval, all right? So we made sure on the front end, the first law firm we hired was Bozeman Law Firm, based out of Mount Vernon. They're one of the quintessential Black law firms in Westchester County, Bruce Bozeman, John Savage, and made sure that they were at that proverbial table, right? We made sure when we started dealing with other types of firms, for instance, having L2 Media's, doing our website and looking at benchmark title companies and making sure people of color were at that table, right? And then you have your pre-development. In this case, was roughly $1 million, right, in funds spent before you even had an official approval, right? That's a major risk, right, to take. And then we created an opportunity where this HDFC, which is affiliated with this church, which has been around for 170 years, and these are African Methodist Episcopal Church. They are born in the civil rights and prior to that, and they're all about economic inclusion and economic empowerment, and making sure that ultimately this asset, this property they owned, but not having the necessarily expertise and also the capital, the initial capital to invest $1 million in something that may or may not happen. So that's where I kind of came in and put the deal together and identified the correct partners and recommended things to the HDFC board. And so I'm glad to say, so let me kind of back up. What happens a lot of times with churches around this country, developers will approach the church and say, you know what, we want to build on this land, and what we're going to do, we're going to name the building the Shane Towers. And Shane would get excited because his name's down on the building. We'll give you tickets to the Knicks game, and we'll buy you a table at your annual dinner, right? But not recognizing that in that deal, in that pro forma, once it closes, there's a development fee of $2 million or $3 million or $4 million, right? And so what we brought to the table was partners that understood that they're going to make some money, but not going to make all the money, right? There's an opportunity for everyone to eat. And granted, in the initial beginning, the developers, they're the one taking all the risks. It's their bottom line. It's their balance sheet, if you will. And so they're going to make more money, but the HDFC is able to participate in the developer's fee. They'll take part in the rentals throughout the life of called. This is a tax credit. It's a 4% tax credit, low income tax credit project. But after the end of the 15 years, it flips. Whereas the vast majority of the ownership reverts back to the HDFC. Right. And so whether it's a pastor 20 years from now, 40 years from now, they're going to have an asset in perpetuity. That's an asset for that community, right? That they can then utilize in different ways, right? That has cash flow, that has, and so it's really a unique case study, we think, that can really be replicated, not just in the region, but around the country. I'm not saying we're the only ones that have done things like this. Certainly that's not the case. But I think it's definitely a very unique project. And I think it's something that, we're very proud of. And it really demonstrates an opportunity to create wealth in the community where you have your ownership, very little risk on the part of this, essentially, what's a Black controlled, nonprofit, if you will, right? And then a say-so in terms of what the building looks like, and then also building a community center, which even though the church is about saving, spiritual lives, but also you want to save the whole man, the whole woman, right? And making sure folks, addressing all of the issues that are certainly systemic in Black communities, whether it be obesity or whether it be, diabetes, all the things for lack of. We talked about gaming in the previous segment, and making sure that there are different activities for essentially what's a family life center and has been for generations at the Remington Boys and Girls Club. So I think it's a good example of taking part in making sure that a community entity that's based in the community that's been providing quality affordable housing creates more assets, and taking one asset. And then once you're in the game, once you do 2 or 3 of these projects, then you're in the game, right? And then also I like to think that me being the co-developer, and as I do more of these projects, I'm at that proverbial table. So you'll see at this project, and I pledge to you that, we're going to have people of color on that project. We haven't yet given out a lot of contracts, so don't worry about that. That process is just beginning. And so as we identify who the subcontractors are, we'll be teaming up with ForSource through West Hab, and then they'll be kind of coordinating the local outreach for local hires. So I just wanted to share that with you in terms of an opportunity for.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Development.
As a developer, you have a unique perspective because a lot of the people, even the entrepreneurs that are here, are not necessarily always property owners. A lot of them are, if they have a brick and mortar business, a lot of them are tenants as well. So from that aerial view that you have, when you're looking at a community, when you're looking at the things the community wants and needs, what they're conveying versus what they're getting, from that bird's eye view, what's a gap that we as a community could close, even if we're talking about on the level of community organizations or churches? Shout out my church, Bethesda Baptist Church of New Rochelle. What do we do with our organizations to get deeper into that development space? God is the first developer. So what do we do as organizations to get into that first development space?
That's a great question. I think you touched on it earlier. you talked about capacity building, how disproportionately a lot of Black businesses, weren't able to survive, not just only because a lot of them had to downsize, but if you're already at one person or two people and you're downsizing, whereas a lot of white businesses had maybe 10 folks, so they can downsize to 5, and then they had certain infrastructure in place. So certainly capacity building is very important, and getting your stuff together. And Sharnetta, who is the director of innovation and facilities at the Fort Worth facility, we'll talk a little about that, I'm pretty sure, in the next speaker. Another thing is really pulling your resources together, getting in spaces in loving business environments where you're working with other entrepreneurs to build capacity. We've all blown through, I use this example all the time, I've blown through money before, 5,000. I'm pretty sure, Shane, you've blown through 5,000. And collectively, we've all wasted money. But I guarantee you, if we all on this call, I don't know how many folks are on the call, but if 20 people on this call put 5 Gs together, put that together, I know a few years ago in Mount Vernon, they were selling properties in the auction for 20 Gs, right? I think it's about, and you're not initially going to it's not going to be everywhere, right? You have haters, we got $100,000, we have an investment club, and well, why is so-and-so holding the money? Well, she's the accountant. That's what she does, right? And so you got to make sure that you team with like-minded individuals. And so that would be my suggestion. Get certified, make sure the business plan, start to build some capacity, start being around other like-minded individuals, identify a mentor, someone who's done it before. People love giving out free advice. Identify a mentor and then start pulling your resources together, right? I think that would, the group of entrepreneurs got together and said, we're going to pull our resources. And right now, this member within our group is at the capacity where they can need a storefront or can utilize a storefront. It doesn't have to be this member, it could be anyone, right? I think that would be one A. B, in terms of development, you want to start, so I've been, I'm a minority owner in this project. I've been doing development on and off since 2004. Fourth got really serious probably 2008, 2009. And I'm just doing my first development project. I've known the developers or people, aspiring developers, who've lost everything. And I mean everything. And I mean, it has a voracious appetite for capital. Wow. And you better know what you're doing before you get into the game, right? So I think, teaming up with people with the knowledge base as well is very important, right? And that's not to scare anyone or discourage anyone. I think, like I said, but you want to make sure that you know what you're doing prior. You look at, unfortunately, look at COVID, for instance. I'm not saying this had anything to do with their ability. Look at that amazing hotel they were going to build right down by the 95 exit. Used to be, what was that? The club, Donco Key, right? That was going to be a world-class hotel, and now the whole project, but that was obviously attributed to more COVID than anything else. So it's a very risky business, and so just go with your eyes wide open as well, and speak with folks before, and also OPM, other people's money when you can.
Excellent. Thank you. I want to thank you for coming tonight. You said something about mentorship, so I'm going to have some people reaching out to you about that as well. I want to speak to Sharnetta Davis, who's one of your, could you give me the exact title? I want to make sure that I'm getting it correctly.
Well, she's Director of Innovation and Facilities. I mean, she's really, it's an organization I founded several years ago, but, I feel like, we got the #1 draft pick. She's an amazing person. I think she's going to take this facility to the next stratosphere. And she's already done that. She's already started, and so at some point I'm really going to slowly, recede into the background, and she's going to be the face of she already is the face. But, I'm trying to introduce around as many folks as possible, to 10,000 square foot co-working space and facility based in Mount Vernon, New York, downtown Mount Vernon. And she'll explain all the details, but she's an amazing woman. And we're looking forward to all the great things that she's going to do for the region. It's based in Mount Vernon, but it's not a Mount Vernon business, a regional business. And I think she's an incredible person.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to follow up with you because I want to have a full interview with you and get more questions out. Is that all right?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next, we're going to have Sharnetta Davis speaking more about this project that they have. Good to hear from you. You hear us well?
Hello, how are you? Hi. Yes, can you hear me? Hello?
Getting a little bit of feedback.
Is there anything I could do to support? Okay, can you hear me? I can hear you now, clearly.
It might be the connection.
Uh,
Oh, wait, I can hear you now. Okay. Did we lose her? I'm asking my producers now if we lost her. Okay, you know what? We're gonna actually have an entire, because this is gonna be one night of several. We're gonna have several nights like this where we're gonna actually invite people like Sharnetta back who are doing great work in the community, especially regarding you, fellow entrepreneurs who need the space to do more business. Tonight, I want to talk about something intense that happened this week. I want to give my condolences to the family of Congressman Jamaal Bowman. His mother passed away from complications from the COVID-19 virus this Sunday on Valentine's Day. Imagine the pain of seeing your son, you know, or knowing that you as a son have just become a congressman and then losing your mother right after. I'm prefacing it with this and offering my condolences, but I'm prefacing this entire thing to say when he had to pull out from tonight, he actually did something incredible for us. He went out of his way to send us a video about his ideology about ownership. So tonight we're not going to have Congressman Bowman live, but even in the very short wake of his mother passing away, he went out of his way and took his time to appeal to us tonight and send us his thoughts on where we are as owners and supporters. So the next thing that you'll be hearing or seeing is a brief speech from Congressman Jamaal Bowman.
Peace and love, everyone. It's Jamal Bowman here, Congressperson representing New York's 16th District. It's an honor and privilege to be here with you today with the Urban Legacy Foundation. I want to talk to you for a minute about wealth building and entrepreneurship. First of all, we cannot have wealth without health. So first and foremost, we need to take care of ourselves through exercise, through eating right, you know, through collaborating with people in our community and just coming together as community and family as much as possible to provide the social, psychological, and mental health supports that we need. We also need to do everything in our power to remain creative and curious about the world around us. Throughout my career, both in education and now in politics, it's that curiosity and it's through that love of learning that continues to sort of drive my work and drive the way I connect with others. It starts with passion, first and foremost, passion for the world around me, passion for others, and passion for learning. And it's through following that passion that I got to this point to be a member of Congress, but also got me to the point where I opened my own public school, as well as, you know, was recognized as one of the most innovative schools in the city and damn near the country. But wealth building for me is also not just about, you know, an individual coming up with a great idea through their passion and bringing that great idea to reality through the funding that they receive from others. It's really about community building and working cooperatively with others, because wealth for an individual does nothing for our community. We have to come together in cooperative economics and community wealth building in order to accomplish where I believe we need to go. It's not about one idea or one person's idea. It's about our collective ideas that we need to bring to the world in order to change the world and make the world a better place. Because if you look at many aspects of capitalism and wealth building, a lot of it is about harnessing wealth in the hands of the few, while the majority of us continue to suffer. And for me, that's just completely unacceptable. We need to do everything in our power to create layers and infrastructure towards community wealth building. And innovation and ideas and creativity and curiosity in the area of science and technology is going to be key to that. There are many people who are listening to me speak right now who can be the next innovators or entrepreneurs in the areas of medical science, in the areas of climate change, in the area of education innovation, in criminal justice reform, in immigration reform, in food security, in agricultural science. We have to expand our horizons to be honest and understand that it's going to be creative ideas in both the technical and adaptive sciences that will take our communities to the next level. And entrepreneurship for me is not asking for permission or not waiting for someone to give us an opportunity. We have to go out there and take it and peel back the layers and lift up as many rocks and boulders and mountains as possible to find opportunities to invest in us as individuals, but also collectively with our team. So find your passion, find your team, remain curious and always be a learner, and continue to grow and build a solution to the problems that we have in the world. We need problem solvers. We need people who are solution oriented. If you are the person that can discover green, sustainable, renewable energy, you will be wealthy for centuries to come. And it will be government funded, because here's one last thing I want to leave you with. It's not only about, people think, venture capital comes in to fund individual projects, and that's true. But whether we're talking about Apple or Amazon or many other companies, Tesla's another one, started with government capital, government funding in these companies. The government believed in these people and ideas and provided hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of capital. So I know the people listening to this video, you have ideas that are brilliant. You have ideas that you haven't even thought about yet, but it's your curiosity that's going to get you to those ideas. So allow those ideas to be your foundation. Surround yourself with the right team and change the world. And I look forward to seeing you do it. And I look forward to helping you in any way that I can. Peace and love, everyone. Be well, stay safe, and we'll talk soon.
So we're going to close out our night. We went 30 minutes over our time, but we had a lot to speak about, and we had some pretty heavy hitters talking about how they're going to help us build up Black business. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, but I want to get 1-minute statements from 2 people that are members and managers on my team, because we all worked very hard to put this night together, and we're going to have more nights like this. So Paul, Jalen, I definitely want to hear from you guys. And tell us why you have joined the Urban Legacy team and what we're going to be doing in the future with you.
Well, I think the work that you're doing, Shane, is really awesome. Like, obviously, I met you through the forum of, through the United Nations Association, and you were able to take the conversation forward, where you're not only talking about resolving longstanding issues in our communities or in international communities, but way that people can do it in a manner that provides an economic incentive that empowers them to have more resources collectively that could help them become stronger resources to those communities. It's like a positive feedback loop of you being strong, becoming a stronger resource to your community by not only identifying problems, but managing a way that you can have an entrepreneurial mindset to resolve these longstanding issues and prevent them through their generation of an economic capital. I'm right now I'm in the environmental field. There's not too many people like me that are in the field. So any way that I could support, making sure that we get more people of color within the environmental field and in positions in environmental leadership, I'm all for it. And entrepreneurship is the way. I have a couple of ideas that I'm going to be launching out, in terms of how I could really start to brand myself better in the environmental field and become a stronger resource towards people that are rising up and could realize this is a career pathway. So connecting to young leaders like the two of you and the work that you have been doing for a very long time in the city, New Rochelle, that I kind of just being exposed to this past year. It's really inspirational, and it's really makes me feel like I'm truly on the right side of history, and I'm contributing to a greater good through the appropriate lens of having us become stronger, stronger versions of ourselves on a daily basis.
Thank you for that. And we're actually, you and I are going to speak more about bringing more energy programs into the conversation. This is important tonight for the entrepreneurs that are here, because energy is another emerging field, and it's going to determine our future. We think of the environment in moralistic ways mostly. I mean, we all like to breathe oxygen, but thinking about the environment, being environmentally conscious, is another infrastructure deal that a lot of us entrepreneurs could get into. And Jalen, I definitely want to hear from you as well. Like, what brings you into Urban Legacy, and what made you want to be, well, one of our founders? You're actually one of our co-founders, and we were in, first conversations to bring this all into fruition. So what made you want to bring all of this together with us?
Actually, it was after church. I actually went to go speak to some people that are, adjacent to our church. And I was speaking to them, and I realized that a lot of them had amazing ideas. They're just the forgotten people. They're the people that we don't tend to think about. They're the people that may not know that they want better for themselves, until you ask them or talk to them. Like, I spoke to a young man out there, and he was almost 40, and no one had ever asked him what he wanted to be. Wow. Ever. And while I was speaking to them, a woman was also coming from church, but she was with her grandson. And she said to him, she literally turned, looked at us, and then looked at him and said, "Don't you dare be like them when you get older." And that was the moment where I realized that we're all victims of the same system, whether it's failed us educationally, whether it's failed us financially, or even our justice system has failed us. And that was the moment where I realized I don't want to just be a bystander of change. I actually want to be a part of it. Like you said, history has its eyes on us, and I don't want to be one of those people that didn't know where they were, when amazing things were taking place. I want to be a part of that, especially if it's through ownership and entrepreneurship. So
thank you for that. And to that point, you said that we're all being victimized by by the system. We all came out of the same schools. We all came out of the same infrastructure, and a resounding theme from our elected officials to the entrepreneurs that spoke tonight. For all of us, we're all going into entrepreneurship blind. We're all finding our way contract by contract. The only reason why it's better than a week-to-week paycheck is that we own more of the check that we're getting and that we're earning, so that was a great thought. We created Urban Legacy to help the mother you were talking about, the son who she was saying and warning against being on the corner, and those kids on the corner, because we're in it for Black people as a whole and building Black wealth. So I just want to thank you guys for being a part of our team. And I wanted to introduce you guys to the world, because we are doing everything we can in the back office. So I want to bring you guys to the front office. We're going to close out the program, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for coming. We are 45 minutes over. Thank you, whoever has stayed on this stream for the entire time. We are going to have this event again, so listen out for another date. For the next date, we're going to try to do this periodically and regularly so we could advocate for Black entrepreneurs. It's the path for everything. If you want a better school system, you have to be a property tax owner. And you have to be a business owner if you want to shape the way the city tax system is set up. If all of these social things that we are fighting for, we're not going for the fundamental and underlying cause. But I'm saying that the good news is so many people on this line tonight, you're either a Black entrepreneur, therefore contributing to the cause, or you're one of our supporters. So again, I want to say thank you for coming out tonight and showing that Black lives matter. This is how we live life. We don't wait for somebody to get shot and killed in the street like a dog or to get choked out until, you know, we say Black Lives Matter again. This is Black Life Mattering. So thank you all for helping us make Black Life Matter. We want to thank Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins for speaking her mind and letting us have so much of her tonight. We want to thank Senator Shelley for talking about education and our future. We want to thank Kenneth Plummer for the work that he's doing, not only in the development space and the places where we live, but also putting together incubators like Forward Thinkers with Sharnetta Davis as great leadership. We want to put them all, you know, we want to thank them for doing the work that they do in the community. And Aaron Williams, again, for facing our children every day, creating a nonprofit and creating a great example of a young Black man who's a good entrepreneur and a good person for our children. And most of all, we definitely want to thank Congressman Jamaal Bowman in the wake of his mother's passing, which again, condolences for that. In the wake of his mother's passing, he took the time out of his schedule to still address us tonight. I couldn't do it. So thank you in abundance for showing that we have value, that our Black lives do matter. And thank you all for coming again. And have an excellent night. And we hope to see you at the next event like this. And we're going to pull down some more heavy hitters for you to speak with.